Okay, we are running about a minute late, so we need to start immediately. This is a special meeting. Public is welcome to join with us this evening. I'm going to defer to our regular council meeting for a roll call. So I'll turn the time over in the presentation to
Mayor, members of council, tonight we are presenting to you the first of what will be a three-part series that the first part is kind of open budget. It's all part of an open data system where we are opening and putting online what will be all of the city's financial records so that the public will be able to access those, find out how we budgeted, find out who we paid, find out how many times we paid somebody. They can pull up a list if they want to know how many times have we paid Brook and Brook Construction Company in 2015. They can run that search. Let me introduce tonight, I've got three folks here who are some of the best in this state. Linda Cariotti, who is the overall project manager. Linda's in the red top, and she is our senior systems specialist, and it's her job to bring this project online with the assistance of a number of other folks. Also with us is Sherry Wright, who you've seen before. Sherry's our budget officer, and Sherry will manage the budget component, of which this is a large part, and then Tess Atchison, who's our capital projects officer, and Tess will manage the capital projects. But let me start with Linda to do an overall introduction and then get us moving. Our goal is to get this done in maybe 15 minutes of time for a few questions afterwards.
Yeah, I just want to start with that. Sherry's going to do a little demo here, and then Tess is going to show you part of the product. But the main reason we went with this product was Socrata is they're integrated in with our financial system that we have. They're a company that specializes in data and transparency of data for governments, all from city governments to county governments, state governments. So this is a very scalable product for us. As we grow, this product can grow with us. We have it so that it's going to be fully automated, so the data will be updated on a regular schedule without any intervention from staff, which is a good thing for us in time saving. Also, it will allow all of the customers to go in and download any data that is in this system in an Excel format, or they can also view the data online. And with that, I'm just going to have Sherry and Tess do some demo for you.
Absolutely. So this is really exciting. This is still at the demo stage. We're not ready to roll this out to the public quite yet. Still working out the kinks and getting the updates automated. But for now, we're just going to show you what's coming down the pike, hopefully within the next couple of weeks. This is open budget. And as you can see, this budget summary right here shows a revenue budget and an expenditure budget of $113 million. They're balanced. This is for 2016. Let's start with the revenues. You click on the revenues and all these fancy graphs will pop up. We're still looking at 2016. We're still looking at our citywide revenue budget of $113 million. Here's where you can go in and make some adjustments depending on what you're looking for. And for now, I'm going to switch this 2016 to 2015, and I think you'll understand why in a moment here. Now you can see these bar graphs not only show the light orange, which is the budget, they also have the dark red, which is the actuals for each of those categories. And for council, you should be familiar with these categories here down the left-hand side. Charges for goods and services, that typically is our utility revenues. Use of reserves, this is an account that we will show up for budget purposes, but we won't actually ever code any actual expenditures there or code any revenues there. It's only used to balance the revenues with the expenditures for budget purposes. And another revenue category of taxes, and you'll see if I click on taxes, I think that's one we're all fairly familiar with. Comes up with this whole list of the tax revenues that the city receives. And this column here that says amended, that's the most recent budget that has been adopted. And then the actual, of course, is the actual year-to-date revenue for those categories. You can also, instead of a table view, you can look at it snapshot. If that's easier on your eyes, you can look at it percentages versus dollar amounts. If we head back to the main open budget page, you can see on the left side there's that toolbar. And we can also scroll around in the revenues, or sorry, the expenditure side. We can change the expenditures broken down by fund. If you're interested in how the general fund budget compares to the electric utility fund budget. Again, if we switch over to 2015, then we can see some actuals with those budget amounts. Let's drill down into security of persons and property. Of course, that would be the police, fire, and a small part of community development falls into that category. Linda also mentioned that you can get this data if you want to look and see all the data that we have in our financial system down here in the lower right-hand corner. I won't do the download because it could take a while, but you can either view it all on your screen. If you would like to download it into Excel, you can do that as well. This is all the same data we see at our desks here, so the public really is going to be able to delve into what we see. There's also links if you have questions, if you, there's a glossary of terms. Oh, so this is an actual glossary from our city budget document, so if some terms don't make sense, you can click there. And within this $113 million expenditure budget, we also break that down further into our capital budget, or our CFP. So of that $113 million, $11.9 million is actually dedicated to capital projects. And this is where Tess will go in and show you some examples of that.
The capital budget portion functions a bit differently than the other portions in that it doesn't do an actual. If you want the actual information, you have to go back up to the expenditure and the revenue portion and look in the CIP funds for the spending and the revenues. But if you go into the capital budget, there's also another thing that we're fixing in 2017, but at the end of every year, we end up with a bit of capital money that's not spent. And as you know, when we go through the process of rebudgeting, for example, the solid waste transfer station, we budgeted $12 million spending last year. We actually spent closer to 8 or 9 million. The remaining part will roll into next year's budget. So when you get into the capital budget, there is a selection where you can say all years. The all years will be overstated by the amount that we roll because we don't go back and amend those to be equal to the actual amount spent for the year. We leave it at budgeted only. So the capital budget section is a little bit different in that it presents a map view. You can see where all of the projects are occurring throughout the city, not only in the overview here, but also on each of the individual budgets. So this one is showing the overview for 16. For 15, the map overview, there are quite a few more projects. For projects that share one location, you're only going to see, if you hover over it right now, you're only going to see at City Hall like one IT project, but there could be 10 or more. So just so that you know, it shows you locations, but it doesn't give you all the detail on the map that you might want to see. The capital budget for it's broken out by fund, it's broken out by service, which is basically fund, but you can also look at it by project description, which will give you all of the projects in a list, so you can compare cost One of the things that you'll have to notice is that the scaling changes based on the most expensive project. So the first page showed a project for 14 million, this one shows a project for 150 million. So be aware that the scaling is per page. But you can see that there are a number of projects that we're running and tracking and going to be capitalizing it eventually. But when you go into the individual projects, I'll go back to the fund. So if you wanted to see all of the projects for the Capital Improvement Fund, which is a governmental fund, funded mostly through general fund, you would click on that particular line, and then you can see it's broken out between streets, parks, capital improvement, general projects, and homeland security, which are fire and police improvements. If you click on this, you can then go back down further into individual projects by description. And it will again give you a map of where the project is located, as well as a general description of what the project entails. It's pretty easy to navigate through and see. You can again download the information by table in the same way that Sherry showed. You can look at the information in a table, you can look in it over time, eventually you will get that so that you can see how much we spend in different funds year by year. But it gives you an idea of where we're heading this year with how much capital we're spending and where we're spending it. So it should help when we get to this CFP process.
A couple more comments that this is the first of three. The next one to come online after this will be called, we are titling it Open Books. It's like, think of it as our checkbook. And then the last part to come online would be Open Payroll, so citizens can go on and find out who are the highest paid employees in the city, how much are they paid by category. We will list by name the top 10 wage earners in the city. Beyond that, they will be identified by position. One final comment, the Open Data Project here by Socratic is the same version that is being used by such small cities as Los Angeles and Boston or Seattle, as well as cities much smaller than us. So that's where part of the advantage of this system is Socratic is able to leverage a common tool to serve a wide variety of audiences, so we don't have to pay the full development cost. We think this is going to be very useful for folks to do public record searches of how much have you paid a company or how much did this project actually cost. So we're quite pleased with what's happened so far. The rollout has been going a little bit slower than what we planned because a couple of times we found when we looked at how we titled things in our financial records, they may not have made sense to be public because we use technical accounting terms that make sense to us, but if a public citizen looked at it, I have no clue what that means. So we've gone through and had to translate back and forth. So with that, we'd be glad to answer any questions that you may have. Again, like we said, we anticipate this should be able to go live for the public within the next couple of weeks, and then about a month after that for the open expenditures portion, and about a month after that for the open payroll portion.
I just actually like to comment, this is a great idea, and I'm grateful that it is coming out. I know this will be the great thing to, for folks who are running for city council to really understand what the budget would be like. I often also wonder how many of our requests for information we will actually no longer have because now the data is online. So hopefully this will help reduce that.
Well, I will reference one request that we had a few weeks ago was how much have we spent with Brook and Brook construction in 2005. We were able to do that, produce that report, but if this system would have been online at that point, the requester could merely have gone to this, under open expenditures, typed in Brook and Brook construction, and that information would have come up, and they could find out how much we paid for all years that are in the system, or for 2015, 14, 13. We are going back and putting history online of 7 years on the open expenditure side and payroll side. On the open budget side, we will just have 15 and 16, and then we'll build that history going forward, because what was budgeted in past years, many years ago, is not as important as what was actually spent.
Just want to thank you for your work on that demonstration. I know that over the last few years, I believe all the council members have just strived to look for more ways to be as transparent as possible. I think this just knocks it dead. This is probably the best opportunity for transparency that we've had a chance to experience. So looking forward to it. Thanks.
I would add this as an excellent tool to permit the public to be participatory in the affairs of our city, which is quite spectacular. We should have an opportunity to see this. Thank you very much. Byron, does that conclude your?
Yes, it does.
Any other questions from council before? Okay. We'll be starting our city council meeting in about 3 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you to our city council meeting, February 16th, 2016, and I want to just take one moment of, I guess, executive privilege or personal intent to I thank each of you that have taken the opportunity to send me a get well card or phone call or an email or express your best wishes for my recent illness. In fact, I did have double pneumonia. I'm grateful to be here with you. I won't be fair to say I'm not exactly 100%, but I know there's others on the council this evening, including Mr. Collins, who's not quite well either. So, but for all of you who have expressed your best wishes to me, I deeply appreciate it and appreciate it very much. We'll have a roll call.
Mayor Downing?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Kidd? Here. Councilmember Brooks?
Present.
Councilmember Collins?
Here.
Councilmember Case?
Present.
Councilmember Meredith?
Here.
Councilmember Redden? Who's not here tonight? Manager McKean?
Here.
Attorney Gore?
Here.
Thank you.
You have a motion to excuse Mr. Meredith?
Move to excuse Mr. Quinn.
Second.
Motion been presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, I've asked Councilmember Gase to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We are very fortunate this evening to be able to have the opportunity to recognize a long-standing and valuable member of our city family this evening, and invite Dennis McBride to come forward, as well as our Public Works Director, Kurt Fulton, to make a special presentation this evening, and especially appreciation of members of Mr. McBride family for being with us this evening as well.
I'm going to take it from here.
Do you have a mic?
No problem. It's right here.
Behind you, there we go.
Oh, there you go.
We need to record these words for posterity. Now I'll tell you, Dennis, you didn't really pack them in. This is amazing. No, I'm honored and privileged today to recognize Dennis McBride for his 30 years of dedicated service to the city. I just have a few notes I want to read about Dennis. Started working in 1962 at the age of 12 years old on the farm, doing everything you have to do on a farm, and that's probably where he learned his work ethic from his family. After that, he took on a few other jobs that we have listed here: farmhand, fishing boat deckhand, logger, soldier, plumber's helper, garbage and septic tank driver, and then he found mechanical repair. He picked up a welding torch, and it all became clear to him and what he needed to do. So, 1985, he was hired by the city into the fleet maintenance division, and there's no doubt that on a daily basis there was not a dull moment, because with all the types of vehicles we have, from sedans, electric vehicles, fire trucks, and the age of those vehicles. What's the oldest one? That fire truck is 1956 is the oldest one we have. So it's a challenge every day to keep them running. His staff is here to recognize him. Thank you all for coming, and his family. I've only been here 2.5 years, and it's been a pleasure to work with. He keeps me up to speed on all the issues he has with the vehicles, gives me wise counsel on what we should be buying, what we should not be buying, and where we should dedicate our scarce resources. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to the Mayor, Pat Downey, to read the proclamation.
First, I want to have the honor of presenting to you, Dennis, a special pin in recognition of your great partnership with the city, your willingness to serve the city so highly effectively. That is our treat to you. I want to read to you, and I hope that you'll be able to hear me. Can you hear me in the back?
Yes.
This is a proclamation in recognition of the public service of Dennis McBride, who began his career with the city July 29th, 1985, and his last day of service was February 19th, 2016. Whereas Dennis has served the city of Port Angeles in an exemplary fashion for over 30 years, beginning as a lead maintenance mechanic, progressing to senior fleet maintenance mechanic, and finally to his current position as fleet manager. And whereas Dennis has been of tremendous value to the city, delivering outstanding customer service with a truly professional approach to our citizens, contractors, business people, and his co-workers in the field and in the office. And whereas Dennis' professional approach and demeanor provided valuable guidance to employees to achieve their full potential and to work together as a cohesive team, realizing efficiencies and cost savings. And whereas Dennis's dedication to the city and the Port Angeles community has been invaluable, he has been a fountain of knowledge, exhibiting excellent communication skills and willingness to go the extra mile to resolve complex issues associated with the purchase of vehicles and equipment. Now therefore I, Patrick Downey, Mayor, on behalf of the City Council of Port Angeles, do hereby regretfully approve Dennis McBride's retirement and do congratulate him on a long and dedicated career for the city and wish him the very best during his retirement.
Good job.
last presentation for Dennis. Superior Performance Award. This honor is bestowed upon Dennis McBride in recognition and appreciation for management, technical skills, vigilance, which ensure the highest and best use of the city's resources while inspiring his fellow employees to work together as an efficient and cohesive team. And is presented this certificate by the City of Port Angeles, Washington, this 16th day of February 2016, signed by Patrick Downey, Mayor, Dan McKean, City Manager.
There's only one thing I want to say, and that is thank you for letting me serve this community.
To see a man serve with such distinction for 30 years and have a tear to his eye and think us with such humility is a way cool thing.
Mayor?
Yes.
Before we get into the public comment period, I have something I'd like to go over with the council and with the public. Many of you received an email, in fact you all should have received an email this past week. And for those of you that maybe didn't read your email, and for the public, I do want to go over this. It has to do with the public comment period that's coming up next. A few council members have come into the city manager's office and was inquiring with staff when the 15-minute requirement or limitation for the public comment period was eliminated from the council rules of procedure, because it was in there a while back. Staff could not remember when that occurred, nor could the council members that came in to inquire that of staff. And so what staff did is we went back and we reviewed the information that was presented at the time we went to the second public comment period back in July. We reviewed the resolution that brought up the second public comment period. We reviewed the minutes, and we reviewed the entire audio from that segment of the council meeting. What we discovered that an error did occur in the final distributed, the final rules of procedure that we presented to the council. During that meeting, when we added the second public comment period, council was given 4 options to consider at that time. And what the council adopted was an amended version of what we called option number 3 at that time. It added a second public comment period directly before adjournment. It included a 3-minute time limit per individual, which we've had in the past, along with a 15-minute total with the mayor's discretion for flexibility, similar to what we had prior to the second public comment period, but again, it added that second public comment period with the same limitations and flexibility for the mayor. What we did is we drafted the resolution based on the council's wishes for it to include a modified version of option number 3, but in error, we left out the total of 15 minutes, and consequently, it did not get added to the updated rules of procedure. Most resolutions that we present to the council pretty much pass in their form that's presented to the council. In this case, not only did we have multiple options, and the council went ahead and modified one of those options, and between the various departments that handle the resolutions for its final adoption, that error did occur. And what we did, knowing this is a fairly significant issue lately for the community, for the council, we went ahead and provided you in the email not only with the written documentation of the memos, the different options, the minutes, but also the actual audio recording that occurred for that entire discussion by the council. And it did pass unanimously by the council with that modified version. What we're going to be doing tomorrow, we're going to make sure that it's on our website so that the public can also access that information and actually look at the written documentation as well as the complete audio of the meeting itself. So just wanted to explain that to you. Our apologies for that. It was a somewhat complicated discussion with the different options and the modification to that. And but again, for the public also, it is on the website and you can actually listen to the entire audio recording as well as the debate that ensued with that. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them, but I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Yes.
Well, I do have a comment. I'm just wondering whether, in the current agendas that come out, if it's possible where it says public comment, to put in parentheses, until 6:30, and I think this is something that we might want to discuss, until 6:30, and then continuation at second public comment period. So that way, at least folks, when they get in, they'll see it on the agenda, they'll know it goes till 6:30, and then there's a continuation on to the next one.
That would be easy to do.
Yes, I agree, but it actually, the policy says 15 minutes and 3 minutes each person, and it can be lengthened at the discretion of the mayor, but I think it needs to be worded according to our policy, but I think it should be on our agenda plus the sign-in sheet, so people know what to expect. I think that'd be very helpful. Thank you.
Dan, and many of you may correct me, but my recall when I first joined the council, there was a print on the printed page. There was a note about a 15-minute period. I went back all those agendas that many years ago. They're gone somewhere, shredded or returned back to the city. I'm not sure. Couldn't find them going back that far. I have some recall of being on.
Well, there was, and staff did actually go back. I don't know how far we went back. 2012, and we didn't see one on the agenda. But we went back through quite a few, but we do know it was on there at one time. We don't go back far.
My tenure began in January 2010.
But I think the important thing is, and I think the important thing for everybody is to have clear expectations, understand what they are, and but also understand based on the circumstances there is flexibility.
Any questions?
Yes, because I know that there was, the two issues were, as to the large signs outside the council chambers and also as the 15 minutes. And I would wonder, I guess, with these changes, and I know it's not on our agenda today, but if we could put this on either our future agenda or later on today to speak about some of those issues. Would you guys be all amenable to doing that, looking at our council rules of procedure and making sure that it's very clear for the audience to know exactly where they can look up exactly how things should be run, so that there's more transparency there.
Brad, do you have any? All right. It's going to turn here to 6:18. Let me just briefly share a couple of quick comments, and then we'll get into this first public comment period. I will extend this first public comment period in the full 15 minutes, but which will take us to just a bit beyond 6:30. I'm going to, I have a sign-up sheet here. There may be additional names back on there by the door. I would like to encourage those that living within the city to take this opportunity first. It looks like, from what I can tell, the majority of all these first member names have been very well lived within the city limits. I also, just for kind of housekeeping, the intent of the first public comment period is very intentional to provide an opportunity for those individuals who would come to the podium to speak on an item that is on that specific meeting's agenda. There often are public hearings which permit those that can come to the podium and speak very directly to a specific public hearing item during that public hearing. In this case, the public comment period permits us an opportunity, extends to you as an opportunity to speak on an item on the agenda that would normally not afford during that particular agenda item an opportunity to speak. So I would like, for the majority of occasions, try to provide that experience as it was intended to be. With that said, it's 20 after. We'll go to 6:35 and then be able to get into the business portion of the meeting. Again, a reminder that we will have a second public comment period later this evening. First thing I have on the list this evening is Janet Kamen.
And actually, before we start, I'd like to tell the audience, there's a couple of chairs back here that are empty, so make yourself, feel free to come on down.
And also, I'm sorry, I failed to, so that members of the members of the council can vote on full attention to your remarks, I will ask the city manager, city clerk here, Jennifer, city manager, to monitor our 3 minutes, if you will. Just catch my attention. About 20 seconds short of that 3-minute mark, I'd like to have you summarize your remarks. So I think help us with this so we can devote our attention to Janet and those who follow her. Janet, please state your name and your address.
Janet Kalin, 2902 South Regent Street. The most extraordinary occurrence transpired on February 2 after the City Council meeting officially ended. Thanks to some of the City Council members, the public was allowed to continue their public comments until all had had their say. Without supervision or harassment, people walked up to the podium one by one in an orderly fashion. No one had to call their names. No one had to time them. No one had to rudely interrupt them with orders to conclude their remarks. In this newly freed environment, the people's speeches rang out articulate, heartfelt, and concise. Most of the City Council and City staff stayed throughout the presentations, although they could have left at any time. They did not stay as a pretense or duty. Their manner made it clear that they were truly listening. They wanted to know what people had to say. In response, the room became charged with lightness, humor, and good energy. Real communication took place at last. This is how our responsive city government might start. So where do we go from here? Seize the day. Build on the experience of that evening. The City Council as a whole has an opportunity to nurture that incipient partnership into something large and strong. To that end, I have 3 suggestions. Number 1, do not make the people your enemy. Climb on board and embrace us. We will welcome you. 2, end water fluoridation. There's no scientific data that shows any improvement in Port Angeles dental health over the past 10 years, and the issue of forced medication is tearing the city apart. Not to mention the much larger issue of democratic processes. On 3 major occasions, the people of Port Angeles have voted against fluoridation. End water fluoridation and regain the trust of the people. 3, If you do choose to create an ad hoc committee for dental health options, please be sure you create a balanced committee with dental health professionals both for and against fluoridation. This balance would be critical to the committee's credibility and to the council's. Please take these positive steps and let's put the period of dispute behind us. We can come together as a community again. Come, join us. Thank you.
Alan, if you
Alan Pete, 804 East 8th Street. I just wanted to comment a little bit about the ad hoc committee and provide a little more support to water fluoridation. I have a letter here from the Assistant Surgeon General for Health to the Regional Director in Seattle for the Department of Health and Human Services. Water fluoridation remains the most equitable and cost-effective method of delivering fluoride to all members of most communities regardless of age, educational attainment, and income level. As far as the ad hoc committee goes, I don't believe that there are any effective alternatives to community water fluoridation. The only alternatives that I believe are available would be to provide a filtered water source where individuals could go get water that didn't want to drink the fluoridated water. I lived at Luke Air Force Base in Arizona. The water, no one liked it, and they had a place where people that didn't want to drink the water could go get filtered, purified water. And that was very effective for those individuals, and that's what I'd recommend. There's no credible evidence to support an association of fluoridation with any of the claimed effects from the anti-fluoride group. It's well worth noting that the levels of fluoridation deemed to be both safe and effective are continually being monitored and reevaluated by our nation's public health. And recently they lowered the standard to 0.7 parts per million, so you know that it's being evaluated. Both the science and our long history of community water fluoridation supply is crystal clear. Fluoridation is one of the safest and most effective public health measures. If I look at your public health duty, U.S. courts have upheld that practicing community water fluoridation is a proper means of furthering public health. Health and Human Services Federal Community Panel in 2015 stated that. So it's within your right as city councilman to have fluoridated water. In a recent study from England, 32,000 water districts, fluoridated and non-fluoridated, the following findings. Lower caries prevalence, fewer teeth with caries, lower hospitalization rates in children, and they looked at all the data from these hospitals and centers, no history, statistical association of fluoride exposure with hip fracture, Down syndrome, all cancers, all causes of mortality, and so the findings was that it was safe and effective. And this was out of a study out of Great Britain, and it studied 32,000 water districts, fluoridated, non-fluoridated, and naturally fluoridated. So it's my belief that you should go forward with the plan to fluoridate water, that the ad hoc committee, if one is set up, should be to determine ways to provide non-fluoridated water.
Thank you. Scott Kennedy.
I apologize for being so far back. Scott Kennedy, 136 Old Black Diamond Road. I just want to remind the council that in September of 2015, the Board of Commissioners of Olympic Medical Center passed Resolution 488 that continued to endorse the addition of fluoride to public water supplies within OMC's service area at optimum levels. And the reason for that was because of the benefits of fluoride for our community and for the public health of our community. The City Council voted to continue fluoride for the next 10 years in December. I really appreciate that strong stand for public health even in an era where it's not, in a moment where it may not be as popular as it is other times. The reason I'm here tonight is I'm very happy to announce I attended the Clallam County Board of Health this afternoon. And the Clallam County Board of Health passed a resolution that endorses community water fluoridation as part of a comprehensive effort to improve oral health. That includes, and they named a number of other elements that go into the work on prevention and oral health. So I just wanted to make that available to you. This is the draft resolution that the Board of Health passed today, if I could, please. Thank you very much.
Todd Irwin, and then Mr. Rorak.
I actually reside in outside of the city, but have an office in the city. Would you want me to continue? Okay, 620 East 8th is my office. I don't know that I have any new information that has occurred in the last 4 months. You have heard a lot of scientific data, and overwhelmingly it is supporting public water fluoridation. I believe that you voted, the democratic process worked as it was supposed to, and I believe that we should continue down the road that we are on right now. I believe the ad hoc committee, again, is just kicking the can down the street. It's not going to help anything, because the people that are against it will not be happy with anything other than discontinuing it, and the people that are for it will not be happy with anything except for continuing. So that's all I had to say, and thank you very much.
Take it for what the people want.
Dr. Rorak, and then Melvina One.
My name's Greg Royak. I work at 1111 Columbia Street in Port Angeles. I'm a practicing dentist. So we've spoken as a medical and dental community. I don't think anything really new to bring to the table here, but just a few points. We stand behind the council for the decision that they made. I think that it was a wise decision, and I think that it is in line with most of the other municipalities within the United States. And so I applaud you for that, and I hope you stand behind this. The ad hoc committee, I believe, is, like Dr. Irwin said, a way to kind of kick the can down the road. I don't know that it's going to add a whole lot to the discussion. Having worked in public health before for quite some time, the alternatives to water fluoridation in communities that don't have water fluoridation, you just don't see a lot of benefit from throwing a lot of money at oral health. It's not to say that it's not a good thing to do, you're just not going to get as much bang for your buck. So just to give you a boots on the ground approach from that. I don't know that that's going to be a wise thing to look at a lot of alternatives for this. I do believe that it is our responsibility as a community to accept your decision, that you've made your word, and that it's time to move on. We've got a lot of important things to discuss in this community, and I think that it is time to move on. So again, thank you for your time. Thank you for hearing the community, and I appreciate the chance to speak. Thank you.
Thank you.
Melvina Warman, 224 Hawthorne Place. Well, here we are again, folks. I wanted to thank you three who are supporting our rights, our votes, and what the majority of the community voted for, and standing behind us in not supporting fluoridation. Some of the things, there's quite a few things I don't understand. I don't understand if the city is giving state or federal money and you're just being forced to shove this fluoridation stuff down our throat. I don't understand. I don't understand why my vote didn't count. I was under the understanding that my vote did count. So You four who voted for the fluoride, you need to decide if you will support our constitutional rights. Okay, so really no one, really in reality, should decide what goes into my water. So, so how many ways can we say we don't want the fluoride and we want our God-given rights? Thank you so very much.
Amen.
Mr. Mayor, Jim Bourget. Is that me?
No, it's
No.
Jim, under the box it says, are you a citizen? Okay. There's a no here, and I interpreted that to mean you did not want to speak.
No, I want to speak if that's me.
Okay, you will get the next one.
Thank you.
This will be our including speaker presentation. And again, there'll be a second public comment during Jim.
I'll start my stopwatch. My name is Jim Bourget. I live at 313 North Ridgeview in Port Angeles. I'm not in the city, but I do live close enough to where I get water. So, please listen carefully for a bit of historical review. Around 40 years ago, now and at every stage of discussion, the citizens of Port Angeles and surrounding area have made it abundantly clear they don't want fluoridated water. At every turn the last 10 years, the City Council has ignored the wishes of its constituents. We are all now backed into a corner with issues of the democratic process and water fluoridation. Essentially, the only course of action is to discontinue fluoridation and come up with other options for the community, of which there are many, likely most of which would cost less and have a greater impact on the dental health of our community. The other option likely to a foregone conclusion is to change the format of city government and elect new and more responsive council members. Is this really the way we want to go? Let's have clearer heads prevail. I'm imploring you as council members to have the strength to show great leadership. End this conflict which has fractured our city and will continue to do so until it's resolved according to the citizens' wishes. We can all argue the value of water fluoridation, but that will not resolve this issue. We need strong leadership with courage and wisdom to make what seems like the clear choice. End the impasse, move forward in a positive direction, bring back a harmonious relationship between the City Council and the community, and let's start tackling all the other critical issues that demand our attention. We are wasting precious time on what is an abundantly clear decision. End the fluoridation. Create a committee in conjunction, I was going to say with the county health department, but scratch that. Local professionals and citizens to improve the overall health of our community and move on. It may seem like a difficult decision, but the path is crystal clear. Those who succeed normally make decisions quickly after gathering all the possible relevant information. Typically, they too are cautious in changing that decision. You've shown caution, taken time to consider all aspects of the predicament, and now faced with limited options. The time to act is now. Don't delay and complicate the situation more. Please demonstrate the courageous leadership we all wish to see from our elected officials. My last 20 seconds. I finally reached the point of getting extraordinarily angry and frustrated. I almost feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone with the rhetoric that continues with 70 years of nonsensical, non-scientifically based policy. It's got to stop. It's just absolutely absurd. And I consider myself an analytical, logical person. I'm going to hit you one last time with one more comment. There is not one double-blind, single study to show the efficacy and safety of this product, this toxic substance. When are they going to do it? When will they provide it? They won't, they can't. They need to stop this now.
we are now going to enter the business portion of our meeting. Are there any late items or items to be placed on this or the future agenda of the council members?
Yes, like I said, I'd like if we could add a review of our city council rules of procedure.
All right, we'll make that, we can do that, make that as a G2.
Is that something we're going to do tonight, or are we going to do it in another meeting so we can prepare for it?
I think it would be best if we had everybody here.
Right, I think what I'd like to do is for us to look and see what it is that we all want to change, and then have staff go ahead and do the changes. So this would be like a little brainstorming session on what we would want.
If you want to have a brainstorming session on that, that's great, but I think a little preparation time would be important. Once again, I don't see any need for a knee-jerk reaction of just giving a new direction to change things right now.
I don't think this as giving you direction. I think it would be, I know that there were some of the issues that were brought up as to the timing and what needs to be shown on the agenda. And just, like I said, just having a discussion to see, do we want to have that changed here or not? We may decide, no, we don't want to have it changed, but I think just having a discussion on how we want to behave, how we want, to be presenting, that kind of thing. And I think it's just due. And we could do it at the next council meeting if you guys would prefer. But I just, like I said, I thought that if we started the discussion today, we can then have staff maybe look into some other things. When Councilman Willie Whittam comes back, then we can have that whole discussion. Because I didn't expect to make any decision today.
Yeah, I'd like to lead to be involved in that. I do have quite a few things prepared already, and I'd be happy to disseminate those so that we have additional items to look at to enhance the discussion.
Yeah, and I would actually, like I said, even tonight, just to even hear what are some of your ideas, just to get like I said, this is just exploratory.
Well, I think it's imperative we have a vigorous, healthy, productive discussion. Okay. Item E on our agenda is a consent agenda. I'm going to read that, and if there's anybody who will have one of the items pulled from the hearing none, I'll read that. E1 is expenditure approval list dating January 23rd, 2016 to February 5th, 2016 in the amount of $4,839,013.15. Modifications to the interlocal agreement with TCFD number 2. Number 3 is Olympic Peninsula Tourism Commission annual agreement. Item 4 is extend the member appointment to the Board of Ethics pool. Number 5, ERA Environmental Agreement Amendment number 2 for the Elbow River hydraulic analysis and remediation. Downtown light pole replacement phase number 2 project CL06-2012 final acceptance. Lighting upgrade phase 2 project CL05-2014 final acceptance. Overhead reconductoring project CL01-2014 final acceptance. 2015 power line tree trimming contract SEC 15-33 final acceptance. City Hall FinCom upgrades project GG1501 final acceptance. And finally, 11 is resolution to set a public hearing for Olympic Medical Center proposal to vacate a portion of Columbia Street.
I move we approve the consent agenda as read.
Second.
We moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
I would make a comment, if I might, to staff and to those specifically who were involved in some of these projects. It was noteworthy to see that in many instances, the final contract amount was below the estimate. And I think that's to be noted and to be highly commendable. So thank you for the contractors that were involved. Under item G, ordinance is not requiring a public hearing, and regarding the franchise ordinance to conduct a second reading and to adopt the ordinance.
This is the second reading, yes, second reading of the ordinance. In the council memo tonight, I did note a couple of changes that have been made in the format. There have been no substantive changes to the ordinance, and I haven't received any inquiries or suggestions about substantive changes. Again, this is primarily an ordinance that sets a framework for how the city will proceed with franchises in the future. And so I really don't have anything new to add since the last meeting. Of course, if there are any questions, I would be glad to answer them. Otherwise, the council may consider this ordinance tonight for approval.
I just have one quick question as to, were you able to get any comments back from the PAPA just to see what they thought about it, since this would also affect them?
I've not gotten any specific comments back.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, let me read the ordinance. It's been prepared. An ordinance regulating the occupancy and use of public rights-of-way by television cable systems and open video systems, providing for the establishment of customer service standards, establishing franchise and licensing requirements for operators of such systems, and prescribing terms and conditions for and upon the construction, maintenance, and repair of such systems, amending chapters 11.08 and 11.14 of the Port Angeles City Code, all relating to television and cable systems and open video systems. Is there further discussion? Okay, accept the motion to adopt the ordinance as read.
Motion to approve the ordinance is read.
Second that.
For the comments then, I will ask for a vote, and that will be all those in favor, they say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by the same sign? Passes unanimously. Thank you. I know there's a good many people here wanting to have us go into this on I-1 as a formation of the Board of Ethics to review the complaint that was presented recently. Dan, are you going to help us with this one?
I will go ahead and cover that. Mayor and Council, on February 4th, the city did receive a complaint against a council member that did invoke the council adopted ethics policy as directed by Chapter 2.78 of the Port Angeles Municipal Code. The city clerk did forward the complaint to the city attorney, myself, and the full council. Council is to take the next steps. You're to choose 3 members from a pool of pre-approved applicants to make up the Board of Ethics. The board must be chosen by a super majority vote of the council members, and tonight that would be 5. forward the complaint to the Board of Ethics to investigate and make recommendations for disposition. The board's findings will be forwarded to the full council. And I'm going to spend the rest of my time primarily talking about the selection process. The composition of the three-member board is made up of one member who is a former judicial officer or has expertise in ethics acquired through education or experience. One member shall have experience in municipal government, and the third member may be any of the pre-approved applicants. Staff does recommend each council member rank your top 3 choices within each of these 3 categories and state your choices for the record. After that is done, there will be a 10-minute break to allow staff time to tabulate the results. And then the council will be given the opportunity to structure the committee as you desire, providing only that the final selection be approved by supermajority. And by going through a ranking process, it will allow you to come up with your top composite score for each of the categories and give you a starting place for your discussion. And you can imagine without some kind of ranking process, it could take quite some time, as there are many different variations that could occur. And Deputy Mayor Kidd will not be part of the Board of Ethics selection process. After the selections are made, staff will work with the Board of Ethics to find a time that they can meet and review the complaint. And the other last thing that I'll bring up, this is the first time that we'll be using this ordinance, and it'll give us a chance to look at the process, to go through that process, and after it's through, if we need to make any modifications to make that process a little bit smoother, we can bring that forward sometime in the future with the council and then modify that to ensure that the process does run smooth in the future. All of our other boards and commissions, they meet pretty much on a regular basis, but this is the one board that has never been used before. So with that, staff can answer any questions you have. You should have been given that information, as well as a sheet in your packet that would allow you to work off of as we go through that selection process.
Do you want us to read them off, or do you want to collect them?
I think we'd like you to state your choices for the record, so audibly. And then if you want to turn in your sheets, that would be great as well.
I guess, if you guys want me to, I can begin with, so the top 3 for the judicial experience. Do you want just the top 3, or do you want one of each?
We want the top 3 with your first choice is number 1, second choice number 2, third choice number 3. And at the end of the time, staff will tabulate the results, so we actually come up with a ranking for each of the applicants. And this will be like the golf score. You know, the lowest score is on the top. So if you could, each of you could go through and rank your choice, number 1, number 2, and number 3, then we'll go ahead and write those down. And then we'll take a short break, and then we'll provide you with the results. And at that point, then you can discuss what those results are and come up with your board.
All right, so my number 1 would be Diane.
Why are we going to initially go down the list? Who goes first?
Now,
Why don't we just turn in our list?
To be publicly stated.
Yeah, you enter your selections.
Okay, and
So Diane's turn.
well, I'm not sure why. How do you wish to conduct this, Mayor?
Brad, is your mic on?
yes, it is. I don't have much of a voice. Sorry.
Well, I guess first of all, I just have a housekeeping question. And as we go through this, Sherry was not going to be participating, so in the final count, there'll be, in fact, we'll still need to have a unanimous affect a unanimous decision, is that?
My understanding of a supermajority is the majority plus one. So if we have I think that's 4 out of 5.
Yeah, I get, yes.
Yeah, I guess we agree on that.
That is correct. 4 on that would be considered. I think I want to have I'm just finishing mine, I'm sorry, I'm probably behind some of the rest of it.
I will not be tabulating the scores, just so you know that.
So do you want to just go by position, by alphabet, or how do you want to?
Well, I think we should go by, let's go by position.
Okay. Starting with 1 then?
Yes.
My top 3 choices for judicial experience or expertise in ethics are Williams, Minor, and Zobel. My top
I'm sorry, was that second and Minor, and then Zobel?
Minor was second, Zobel was third.
Thank you.
My top 3 for municipal experience were Zorbel, Dean, and Rutten. And my top 3 choices for citizen at large were Zobel, Prince, and Dean.
Thank you.
I think I'm number 3. Top 3 choices are in order: Grant Minor, Kenneth Williams, Ian Zobel. Under top 3 choices.
One second, Mr. Mayor. Minor, Williams, and Zobel. Okay, thank you.
Yes, number top 3 choices in order of ranking for municipal experiences: Rutten, Dean, and Zobel. And under ranking for citizen at large: Diane Schipperling, Frank Zobel, and William Kuka. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this last name. Number 4 will be
And if you could just speak up just a little bit.
For judicial experience, my 3 choices will be Grant Minor, Ken Williams, and Jerry Dean. For municipal experience, Edward Zobel, Jerry Dean, Danetta Redden. And citizen at large, Frank Prince, William Yuka, and Diane Schipperling.
For judicial, it's going to be, for me, Ken Williams, Grant Minor, and Jerry Dean. Municipal is going to be Danetta Rutten, Jerry Dean, Edward Zobel. And for citizen at large, Frank Prince. I'm just going to say Diane, I'm not sure I pronounced that last name. And William Yuck.
All right, as for judicial, it'll be Minor, number 1, 2, Williams, 3, Dean. For that's judicial. For municipal, would be Rutten, Zobel, and Dean, in that order. And for citizen at large, would be Diane, Frank Prince, and William Yuck. So we take a 10-minute break. Is this what's going to happen?
Okay, we will take a 10-minute break. That'll get us back here at 8 minutes after 7. I invite members of the council to join us at the dais. Tabulation has been completed. So, I think, suggesting the off chance that someone has joined us just now in the proceedings, we are on our agenda at I-1, the formation of a Board of Ethics Committee to review a recent complaint filed, and members of the council were asked to provide their choices in 3 categories of on this panel. We invited our city clerk and city manager to tabulate the results of our votes, and I think they're prepared to present those. And, with that said, Jennifer, do you have those with you again?
Well, we do have the results, and I'll have our chief financial officer go over the results and how they were tabulated.
Council members, we made a change from what the city manager announced before we started the tabulation. We actually went with the highest point total, and for a council person's first choice, they were given 3 points, second choice was given 2 points, third choice was given 1 point. If we had gone with the low number, a person who was picked by one of the 5 council members could have conceivably ended up with the lowest number, but not been the highest ranked choice of any of the council members. So with this, we went through the 3 categories. For judicial, I will give you the lowest rank, then working up to the highest ranked position. In judicial, Zobel had 2 points, Dean 3 points, Williams 12 points, and Minor 13 points. For municipal, Dean had 9 points, Zobel 10 points, and Rutten 11 points, excuse me, 11 points for Rutten. Citizen at large, Dean had 1 point, Yucca had 5 points, Zobel 5 points, Shimperly 9 points, and Prince at 10 points. So the 3 highest ranking candidates in judicial, it was Minor, in municipal it was Rutten, and in citizen at large it was Prince.
So, Mr. Mayor, would it be appropriate to accept the motion to approve that?
Yeah, before we do that, would there be any questions to?
So with that being said, we move ourselves forward. I would make a motion that we approve Grant Meyer, Danita Retton, and Frank Prince as the top vote obtainers as tabulated by city staff.
Second that.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that is we have that. We can invite Councilmember Kidd to be join us. Chief Caliber, Nathan.
Okay, Mayor and Council, staff did work with Councilmember Collins and Councilmember Brooke on looking at a proposed ad hoc committee and the structure of that committee. That was at the direction of the council during your last meeting, and the council wanted wanted us to meet, come up with the proposed structure and bring it back to the council for discussion and for a vote if we would proceed forward with that proposed committee structure. So at this time, I'll ask Councilmember Collins and Councilmember Brooke to go through the process and talk about what their feelings were about the committee structure, and then the council can discuss it and ultimately vote on it.
Great, thank you. Yes, we met, trying to figure out how to put this committee together, because our goal was to bridge the divide that exists in the community related to the issue of fluoridation, and to look for viable alternatives that recognize the importance of oral health in the community. So that was our ultimate goal, to see if we can come to that, because I believe that everybody in this room is here because this is a really important issue for you. And that, if we work back from the issue, fluoride is all about having healthy teeth for our community, and having healthy teeth in our community is really important to us. So, so you have the other extreme, sorry, not extreme, you have the other view of water is also important to us. But the idea of fluoridation is for oral health. So if we can find a viable option for oral health, that was the reason for having this this community, this committee, to have a good viable health for our teeth. So what we decided to do was we would select 2 people for fluoride, 2 people against fluoride. We would also have a couple of neutral members, and then we'd have 1 member from the Utility Advisory Committee. Because I know it was talked about that at the UAC, it was a utility issue, so I was like, okay, we can add a Utility Advisory Committee member. So, anything you want to add, Brian?
Well, I would just add that we didn't think this committee was going to vote on anything. They would have to arrive at some alternative based on consensus. And if pro and anti-fluoride people couldn't agree on something, obviously we wouldn't be moving forward with any recommendation. But if there was something that people on both sides of the issue could agree on, then that's something we might be bringing back to the council. The other thing I would point out is that whatever alternative might be identified, we'd have to determine could it be paid for and who would pay for it and how much that would be. So the council would be the body that would have to wrestle that question. I don't think the committee is going to be able to wrestle that question. So even if there was a consensus, it may determine that whatever alternative couldn't be paid for. So I don't think there was anything other than an attempt to do what Mr. Bourget suggested, which was there may be other alternatives that would be safe and effective, and or what Dr. Peake suggested, there may be an alternative that said some of the water might not have to be fluoridated. And so if you could have unfluoridated water, those that wanted unfluoridated water could get it. So those are things that would be discussed. I don't think there'd be any bad idea. It's just a question of many of them being able to reach a consensus in a group that doesn't have much consensus at the moment.
And I guess one of the things I'd like to add is to make sure that this committee really seriously looks at viable alternatives, that we can be as open-minded about the potential of ideas and solutions that gets to the heart of what we want. We want to try to see what viable alternatives we can come up with, because otherwise we're just wasting our time. And that was one thing that I don't want to waste anybody's time in here. And I really don't. Who wants to waste time on something that is just going to divide our community more? The idea is to try to come up with something that can help us unite and work on this issue that has so divided our community. So.
I would also note that Dr. Frank indicated that he did not want to be on the committee. And I know that Dr. Kennedy was here earlier, and I don't know if he would be willing to sit in on that position or not. But he's been a strong proponent of the fluoride, so I'm not sure how you resolve that issue tonight.
Sissy, Brad, either one of you prepared to form this committee this evening, or would you consider yourself still in the process of considering those things?
Well, one of the things we wanted to do is present to council here to say, are you guys okay with this format for our committee? Whether a member or two are missing, I think we'll go ahead and, fill that sooner or later. But council, I think, needs to go ahead and say yea or nay about forming this committee. I think that's the reason to bring it up to you today, because in the previous council meetings, we talked about, yes, we would like to form this oral health committee to be able to address this issue, to find some way of uniting our community together. Because we've got a lot of energy here, and it would be great if we can put it to some really good use. So.
I commend you guys for trying to work this out, because it is something that needs to be worked out. It's a real problem and an issue for our community, and it's a real challenge for everybody on both sides. So one of the things that got us into this big mess to start with was that we went out and asked for an opinion, and a lot of folks don't like how we reacted and how we voted based on the opinion that they gave us. My only concern would be, would this be looked at as another potential reach out for people's opinion, and if we don't come up with something that is satisfactory, then are we just getting ourselves that much deeper into the quagmire? With the subject line indicating explore fluoridation alternatives, it looks like there could be some alternatives, but one of the alternatives could be stop fluoridation in the water completely. And I know that there's some people that that's the alternative that they want. And that's okay, that's your opinion. If we come up with something, if the committee comes up with something that is short of that, will there be any acceptance in the community? I don't know. I'm just warning us that I hate to see us get deeper into what we've already gotten ourselves into.
Well, it is true that, like I said, when we first started this discussion, none of us wanted to waste our time. And none of us want to divide the community further. We really don't want to do that. We do know that the community is upset about a lot of different things. And one of them is fluoridation. I think it's gone past fluoridation in certain ways. But one of them is fluoridation. And so how do we try to move forward with this issue? It is possible that we get to committee and we do not find any viable solutions that are acceptable. And at that point we say, hey, we tried, we don't have anything viable to show for it. We know, again, the community is looking at change of government as one possibility. We also know that if we wait 2 years, there's going to be another election. That's another possibility. There's a lot, there's only so much we can do in committee, and there's only so much we can do here in council. So at this point, this committee was thought about to try to see if we can find viable alternatives. But if we don't find them, then I guess that will be the message we bring back. But I feel like at least we're going to try something to be able to, we might be able to find a solution. And we might be able to find a solution to say, hey, if we don't fluoridate the water, but we give the fluoride to people who really need it, or find a way of getting to there, that's one solution. If we say no, maybe we reduce the amount of fluoridation in the water. It still has some fluoridation, but it gives you some, there might be alternatives that we have not thought about. But we're not thinking about being closed-minded. We want to try to be as open-minded about these options.
Sherry, anybody else want to?
Well, 2015 was the year of the discussion, debates, discussion. We decided as the council that we would discuss this issue in 2015, and we discussed it the entire year. And this is 2016. We have voted on it, and then at this point, it just seems, I respectfully say that we voted on that issue, and if it just doesn't seem, I just can't support the committee looking for alternatives. We have voted, unless I need to be getting information from the Clallam County Board of Health that they're against fluoride, that the Surgeon General is against fluoride, or Dental Association against fluoride. Would have to see some information from the authorities, because we've discussed it, we voted on it, and I'm ready to move on with other issues.
Yes, ma'am.
When we discussed this, I'm not overly sure that we looked at alternatives for this. The discussion was about whether or not we were going to fluoridate the water. And I believe that alternatives do need to be looked at. And if these folks are willing to step up to the plate and be a part of that, in my opinion, this should move forward. This is not going to hurt something. And, the committee's made up of proponents of fluoride and opponents of fluoride. And I think that, that these folks can sit down together and have a civil conversation and come up with some different ideas. I do agree with Sissy, maybe they won't. Maybe there isn't anything viable. But I think it's worth looking at. And there are, the other options on the table. I don't want to see our government go that direction, but the people can start whatever they like for initiatives, and that's, again, remind people also that, in 2018 there will be new faces or the same faces. That depends on the voters of the people. So I think that we need to look at some alternatives.
Well, let's try to invite us amongst ourselves to share, to Sissy's question about do we want to have this committee continue, especially in light of what I'll call it a preliminary recommendation and sort of methodology that the two of you have considered. Let's start on my left and we'll work our way to the right. Just if you would say yes, I would want to get this committee to continue. We will quickly as possible, really as soon as possible, agree to the list of public input.
Okay, I would say that yes, we want this committee to continue because it gives us an option.
Okay, Michael?
I would agree with that. I would like to see this committee go forward.
This council has voted on the issue, so thank you respectfully.
Okay, I'm going to save mine for last, just respectfully. Yes.
So if a committee is coming together for alternatives, that's great. If the only acceptable alternative is determined to be stop the fluoride completely in water, then that's not acceptable. Because there's 4 people that have voted, unless one of us is ready to change their mind and throw that vote out, then it would make no sense to continue on. I believe that you could find some alternatives that could work for the folks that are anti-fluoride. And I'm fine with listening to that. I'm just cautious about having it come back later on as another I told you so.
One speech again.
Yeah. No.
Okay, Councilmember Collins.
Well, I think I was one that proposed this in the first place, and the idea was, is there some way for people who can't agree on whether to fluoridate or not fluoridate could meet and talk about things other than either ending fluoride or keeping fluoride in water. And so those options aren't what this committee is going to discuss. They have to discuss something other than those 2 options. So, my feeling is that there is a potential way for a community that wants to work together to separate this, or to bridge this gap between them, that's great. I don't have great expectations. I mean, I think that the community is very divided. I think the rhetoric is very hostile. It's hard to keep wanting to move forward when I look out there and see a bunch of signs saying, don't bother. So, I don't know. My general feeling is that I would support an effort. I don't think it would be long. I think it would either be successful quickly or it wouldn't be successful at all. So I respect your concern about it, but I'm committed to at least opening the dialogue.
Okay, and lastly, this matter has become so divisive. I would like us to, as a community, members of the council collectively, that we try one more time. I may have said this before, I'll say it tonight. I'd like us to find the better angels of our nature, however that may be. But we ought not to end this discussion on such a rancorous and divisive tone. That is not healthy for this community. So I encourage the committee to, as quickly as you possibly can. I don't know that we want to put an artificial timeline on this that would only incur more stress. And I'll leave it to Sissy and Brad to set your own internal timeline. I think you used the word quickly. It's conceivable and it can be. And at least be prepared to come back to our next council meeting and with some maybe we can get to a decision even then. But I want you all to feel. I hope you will be appreciative of the council's efforts to at the end of this experience, we need to be more whole than we are right now. Thank you very much. My apologies if some of you are having trouble listening, hearing me. My voice is still a little bit not very loud. We are now at item J, the Department of Ecology Stormwater Grant Acceptances. I guess Fred, is that for you?
I have that for action. So before you today is a request to, or approval to accept 3 stormwater grants from the Department of Ecology. These were discussed at the recent Utility Advisory Committee, and they were all 3 were endorsed to move forward for approval by the council. The first one is $50,000, no local match required, to continue the implementation of our stormwater NPDS permits that deals with detection of illicit discharge detection and elimination of pollutants in our stormwater, also public education outreach, and helping developers in construction sites and so forth to reduce runoff and stormwater pollution. So that's $50,000, no local match. The second grant is for $474,000 with a 15% match. That's $83,000 from the city, and that's to rebuild a new decant facility. So what is a decant facility? Decant facility is where we take our soils that we pull out of excavations and broken sewer lines. We want to be able to remove the water safely from those soils. Also, when we vacuum out, vector out our catch basins, there's a lot of sediment down there. There could be pollutants, oils from cars, and a lot of water. So decant facilities where we take these soils with lots of fluids in them so that fluids can settle out, go into our stormwater system, be disposed of properly, and then we have dry sediments to be disposed of through the transfer station. We also, after they're decanted or fluids removed, we test them to see if there are any pollutants in them and dispose of them properly. So we have our decant facility is very old, antiquated, and really doesn't provide us with good services to efficiently remove that water, and it's open to the environment. So we can remove the water, then it rains, and it's back in there. The third one is $461,000 for low-impact development in 2 of our alleys. There's a 25% match on that, so it's $153,000 from the city. And this is in 2 of our alleys in the Francis Street drainage basin. We'll be paving 2 alleys with permeable concrete, which allows rainwater and any other pollutants that from vehicles, properties to percolate through the concrete into the subsurface, percolate through the subsurface and be cleansed that way, rather than with regular asphalt alley. It just runs straight into our stormwater system and then straight into the straits of the Columbia. So, and the side benefit of the 75% funding from Department of Ecology is from I put on my street hat, and I'm getting 2 alleys paved for 25 cents on the dollar, where Department of Ecology is paying 75% of paving our alleys and 2 of our alleys. Not a lot, but I don't have the money to pave alleys, so I'll take extra money. So we get 2 alleys paved, and we get the stormwater benefit for those 2 alleys also. With that, also the matches have all been budgeted in our capital facility program, so we have those funds available. I'll take any questions at this point.
Yes,
On number 3, the permeable concrete alleyways, I happen to have the displeasure of living at 3929 Solar Lane. That is one of the, I believe it may at the time have been the only permeable concrete cul-de-sac road.
Was that put in by the developer?
That was put in at the time by, I believe, Vision Builders.
Okay.
At the time, this is what they were operating under. There is an unimaginable amount of gravel that comes off of that road. The road, for the most part, does what it's supposed to do. I was told by Roger Best that the city had no viable way to clean it. That was about 4 years ago. And I've never really seen it get cleaned. The fire department has been up there before and blowing rock from one end of the cul-de-sac to the other. This is a mess that gets tracked into your yard, your driveway, your car, your house. These pieces of gravel get stuck in your shoe. And my concern with it is keeping the top surface from sloughing away. I do believe that we're getting a good deal. The city that doesn't have the money to be paving alleyways, when we've got streets that need to be taken care of, and 25 cents on the dollar is quite a cost savings. But I do caution that, I guess my question is the ability of the city to keep that in clean working order. If you go up to Solar Lane in a very heavy rain, you will notice that the water actually sheets off of, in a couple of areas, off of the concrete surface.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you talked to one of my staff several years ago. We recently approved the procurement of new street sweeper. So we do have one of the street sweepers that just the old style, just brooms and then flips it up and then into the machine. But now we have one that actually sucks. There's a vacuum to it that will pick up a lot more than just the brushes used to. So when I had my streets look into the permeable asphalt or permeable concrete construction, and we'll have to ensure we sweep it at least 2 times a year to ensure we can, because you definitely don't want aggregate to fill up the pores, because then that defeats the whole purpose. So you have to suck it out on a regular basis, and that's what the new street sweeper should be able to do.
That sounds like that thing is falling apart though, right? If you're getting pieces of gravel coming off, is it concrete or is it asphalt?
I'm not, it's okay, that's my first question. We're talking asphalt or concrete?
Concrete.
Okay, when you, for instance, turn around a equipment trailer in there, you're talking about peeling up some serious gravel. And again, it comes down to whether or not the application was done correctly. I don't know. We have done, when I've hauled for Lakeside in the past, we've done some asphalt, permeable asphalt down in Port Townsend before. And that has a whole different look to it. But I'm not all that sure if that's what it's designed to do. I mean, I realize that is a thick piece of concrete.
Yeah, it's already been designed. If you'd like, you can take a look at the designs. Really the future maintenance of any kind of road surface is really dependent, as you stated, how it was built. Was it built to the correct standards and specifications for your road? I don't know. But the city will be using the most latest specifications for road surfaces.
And I also realize this is an alleyway, not a cul-de-sac that vehicles are constantly turning around in. I just, the other caution is anything into the future, the inability to plow that also. I know we're not plowing alleyways with the plow equipment.
Yeah, and they're not, all these stormwater technologies that we're bringing forward, the rain gardens, the filter units, the LID, or permeable pavements, we're starting off small to see how they work. Really, we're looking at how the rain gardens performing against the filter units, and what's the best bang for the buck. And so we'll definitely be watching this over time. My street crews are very, as you said, very cautious about this because they don't want extra maintenance on these alleys compared to a straight asphalt road. So it will require evaluation over time. And this is not even if it works wonderfully, this is not a solution for the city, because going with these permeable pavements, you also have a suitable subsurface. The water goes through the pavement, but it has to go through into the subsurface. And unfortunately, most of Port Angeles does not have the soils that allow that to happen. So we did bores, boreholes to check out the subsurface, and only about 25% of the bore results would allow this type of permeable pavement. So it's a small solution in the small locations in the city that we could ever try this with.
Well, thank you. I just wanted to bring my 2 cents.
No, absolutely. Great comments, and maintenance is a huge issue for anything we do, and those are exactly right on. Is what we have to look for moving forward.
Thank you.
Well, you scared me, Mike. Oh my gosh. So we reviewed these in Utility Advisory Committee meeting, and it's just really great to have funds coming in and low matches. Now, being able to pave 2 alleys is really great. Finding 2 alleys with the subsurface that will absorb the water was the trick. So I know my alley would make it because my yard's all clay and rocks and stuff. So this is great because we really need to pave our alleys. I think I'm excited about this because I'm hoping that this will be a successful project for us and maybe be a role model for other communities paving. So I'm hoping we don't have issues with gravel or whatever, but I know this is a new distinct design. So I'm really excited about this opportunity to get these grants, 3 grants that are going to be helping the city in 3 different projects. So I fully support this, and I would like to make a motion to accept these 3 grants from the Department of Ecology on behalf of the city.
All right, I'll second that.
Is there any further comments before we move to?
Yes, speak a little louder, sir.
Anybody else that have a comment before we go to the hearing motion? Okay, do you want to take a whack at that?
You want to read the whole thing or?
Yes, I probably need that.
Okay. So my motion is that we accept the Department of Ecology a $50,000 stormwater capacity grant with no local match to implement and manage the city's Western Washington Phase 2 municipal stormwater NPDES permit. And number 2, a $474,300 water quality combined financial assistance grant with a 15% local match to design and construct a decant facility at the Port Angeles Regional Transfer Station. And number 3, a $461,250 water quality combined financial assistance grant with a 25% local match to construct 2 green, low-impact development alleys with permeable pavement.
I will second that. I don't know if we need to give the authorization to the city manager and also to make modifications as necessary.
Thank you.
Does that, yes, so as long as we include authorize the city manager to sign the contract agreement and make minor modifications as necessary for all 3.
We do, thank you.
Any further comments or questions? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Could I just have one more comment, Councilmember Meredith? I'd be happy to go out with you if you could show me what the issues you're having on your road.
I'd be happy to show you guys my special treatment here.
No, I'd like to know, so I have a visual in my mind when we do the alleys, we can look for those issues that you know.
Yeah, so if you just go up to Solar Lane, you'll see, and I'd especially encourage the city to go up there in a very heavy rain, and right where the curvature of the road is to go towards the cul-de-sac, you can see the water sheeting there.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, we are at council reports. Let's start with Councilman Collins.
No report.
I had an opportunity to attend the Chamber of Commerce board meeting last week, and I just wanted to report that the new executive director, Mark Hampshire, is on board now. What a great guy, a real asset to our community. He's doing a wonderful job. He's got his work cut out. There's a lot of things he needs to learn in a short period of time, but he's making good progress, and I think we'll see very, very good things come out of the chamber.
Councilman Kidd.
No report.
No report.
Just a quick one. We got a lot of comments about the column signs, the English and column. And for folks who didn't know, we do have a column language, and it is alive, and people are speaking it. They're being taught in the high schools, and so it is there. And there's a lot of comments back and forth about it.
Mr. Mayor, can I say one thing? I had a call the other day about the officer on foot downtown Port Angeles from somebody who I expected another complaint, and he wanted to point it out and thank the city for the officer was appropriately dressed, and he liked the hat and outfit the officer was wearing as opposed to he called it the SWAT uniform. So And I have noticed this gentleman, I pass through downtown many times a day, and I have noticed this gentleman down there before, so thank you for that.
Thank you. And we don't have a SWAT team, just so you know.
I had no report. Just happy to be here. So, item L, city manager reports.
We have one building permit report. If you have any questions, you can get a hold of Director West. One item just to bring your attention. You did receive an Outlook invite on March 23rd at 5 p.m. at the Heritage Center. We do have a joint City Council and Tribal Council meeting scheduled, and we'll be getting the agenda out to you shortly. And just, again, mark that on your calendar. And the action items that we got out of tonight's meeting is that staff will be working with the selected Board of Ethics to work on a time where they can meet to review the complaint. Also, staff will provide support to the ad hoc committee under the direction of council members Collin and Brooks. So we'll be working to ensure that the meetings occur and provide any support in that area. And that's pretty much what I have under action items, unless there's something else that you have. And with that, we're done.
We are at that portion of the meeting, the second public comment period. I owe an apology to Jody Moss. In my absence from our last meeting, the sign-up sheet has been slightly altered, and not so, and my brain being so feeble. I should have told Jody earlier when I misread the sign-up sheet. So she's already there.
I am already here. Thank you.
It's like magic. Let me read a couple. We're going to begin at effective at 7:55, and so this portion of the comment period will last till 10 after 8.
So this is in keeping with oral health, and something that's important to all of us for life, all our lives. The Washington Dental Service Foundation, which is in support of community water fluoridation and has been helping us all along with ours all these many years, also operates the Smile Mobile in Washington State. And the Smile Mobile is coming a couple of times. So there are flyers that are available for families with kids who don't have access to oral health care. The Smile Mobile will be in Port Angeles from February 29th to March 3rd, 2016, and you need to call to schedule an exam with the Smile Mobile. They periodically make trips here. It's a van with professionals who come and see our children. They'll be at Jefferson Elementary School during that time frame. And then they will be back again, or staying one day later for Project Homeless Connect. Project Homeless Connect provides many different kinds of services for individuals who are low income, currently homeless, at risk of homelessness, or just needing to access services. And their individuals can find services like clothing, shelter services. There's a bank that comes and tries to help people think about actually using banking services. There's also legal advice and medical and dental. The Smile Mobile will be there for adults for that date, and the recommendation is to come early. There will be a long line. It'll be a sign up, and if you do need dental services to take care of problems, you'll want to get there early to get on that waiting list. So thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor and Jody, still looking for volunteers. I volunteer every year. I encourage the council to volunteer for Project Homeless Connect. It's a wonderful day.
I've been sorting clothing. Lots of clothing.
Councilmember Collins and myself have been a part of that event for years, and it's an extraordinary experience. Many people's lives are changed as a result of that experience. Jim, let me read a couple of answers so we can expedite this and get as many in as we can. Jim Duff, Edna Willitson, Mark Johnson, and Gail lives at 3744 Crab Apple. So Jim Duff, you state your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Jim Duff. I live at 4201 C Street. This is my first 4-year into the city council chambers, and I was amazed. I really did not expect it to, it looks very nice, but I didn't expect to hear so much banter back and forth. I'm a 25-year retired Honolulu police lieutenant. I lived in Hawaii for 30 years, and one of our biggest projects and proudest things was we had pure, clean water. It comes down through the lava and is filtered into a bulb underneath a lava, and we use it, and we don't add anything to it. And I wonder why, if we took a vote, or we took an opinion poll, why when it came back vastly against it, that nothing happened. Does our opinion mean nothing? Usually when I find out that somebody is standing up strong against the opinion and the voice of the people, there's a dollar sign behind it. I'm concerned that that may be the process here. I hope not. I pray not. I've only lived here for 8 years, but I filter my water. Why? When I watered my plants, they died. If I use rainwater on my plants, they thrive. If I filter the water and put it on my plants, they thrive. I pay you for clean water. I expect no less. Thank you.
All right.
I'm Edna Willitson. I live at 1719 East Lambert Lane, and I'm going to speak on I-1. I'm here representing Our Water, Our Choice, a nonprofit corporation. Upon receipt of the documents that will be coming sometime this week from the attorney, we will be filing a complaint against Sherry Kidd and Dan Gase for ethics violations. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Marcus, you're next.
Across the way here, I see probably, well, conservatively, over 100 years of public civil service experience. With their combined 100 years, they have signed a memo saying, let's look at some other options. And tonight you said you don't even want to look at those options. They have their ear to the rail. They know what it takes to run a city, to try to incorporate, to balance people's opinions with actually having to put in enforcing the regulations. And I don't understand why you don't even want to listen to them. About 2,800 years ago, a king died in Israel. His name was Solomon. His son, Rehoboam, was taken the throne. The people came to Rehoboam and said, hey, your father did some things that we didn't like. Could you look into this and change these things? Rehoboam went to the public civil servants of the time, his father's advisors, and asked, what would you do? And they said, change. Give the people what they want. They'll be your pal. Instead, Rehoboam went to his group of friends, those he went to dinners with or awards, banquets, galas, and they said, double down, double down. Don't listen to your king's advisors. Civil war ensued for hundreds of years until Israel was taken away to Babylon in Exodus. Your choice.
Gail Hinderer, I'm sorry, I can't quite read. Gail, you live at 3744 Grand Avenue. You're here, you're excellent. Okay, Susan Guy. Susan here. Mary Hogan.
Hi, I'm Mary Hogan. I'm the Executive Director for VMO, Volunteers in Medicine. My address is 819 Georgiana. And I've been up here several times, so I'm pro-fluoride. What I'd like to do is I'd like to extend an invitation to the City Council members to come visit us at VMO. Come see what we see. Come look at the patients. And come look at why fluoride in our water is so important to us. So I'm going to leave you, each of you, with my business card. If you will call me and set up a time, I would like you to come to the clinic and see what we do. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony D. Franjanzi is at 1220 West 4th Street.
Good evening. My name is Tony DiPengrazio. Thank you for allowing me an opportunity to speak with you. I have a couple of questions. One, I was wondering, I'm trying to understand the council's position and why you're so steadfast in your opinion and your position to just walk over us and jam this down our throats. Is there state or federal laws that mandate the city must fluoride the water? Are there government grants that the city receives by adding fluoride to our water?
I was going to say just till May, right? And then finish it.
Say it again, ma'am.
Until May.
Until May.
Yeah.
I heard some suggestions here earlier where someone says, well, you know, in 2018 you can vote. And if we're unhappy with some of the council members, we can voice our opinion then. Is this not a 10-year contract?
No, it's not.
Is it year to year?
It's no contract at all, sir.
Right, there's no contract.
So this
So the next
fluoride,
council-
if you pass this hypothetically the 1st of March, it can be undone the 1st of April? Okay. I'd really like to try to understand now. You know, I talked to my dentist says if I brush my teeth twice a day and I floss, and if I use fluoride toothpaste, I don't need fluoride in my water. Someone else said, well, there's an alternative. Look for one. Okay, so I buy bottled water and bathe and cook with it, okay? The person is worried about not getting enough fluoride, why can't they use fluoride toothpaste? You know, it doesn't seem reasonable to me. So then I try to think of a way that I can make myself heard. The only thing I can think to do is to possibly with the first half taxes coming up here, property taxes in April, and I always pay them to the county treasurer. If you're going to walk over me, perhaps I should write my check out and deposit it in a trust account at my attorney's office and encourage other people to do the same thing until we feel that we're receiving, due process here. Thank you very much.
Mark Fisher to be followed by Jack Carlson. Either one of them are here. Dr. Mark Fisher. I think he probably had to go back to the hospital. Jack Carlson.
Dr. County, I'm not going to be politically correct. If somebody was abusing my kids, I would do everything in my power to stop them. And that's exactly what's going on here. We never did do a test on fluoride when they instituted it. The National Research Council of our country has done extensive reviews and scientific evidence, not some obscure European crap. They have found that it does neurological damage, suppresses the thyroid, increases cancer growth, increases free radical damage. The one free radical will destroy 20 million cells in the blink of an eye. In the liver, triggers immune toxicity in the brain damage, degenerative brain disease, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, Lou Gehrig. Fluoride will not kill you outright unless you're a little toddler and you know how to pull a darn drawer up and you walk up and you eat a tube of toothpaste, which has happened and it's killed them. Do you want that to happen to your kids? Just carry a loaded gun in your house. So it was in reach of your little guys. Go right ahead, I dare you. It's a form of degeneration. Water rats, the reduction of brain receptor critical and learning and memory. Progresses Alzheimer's disease. It does not prevent cavities. It weakens enamel, destroys teeth. 39,000 school children found no overall reduction in cavities in the communities in our nation. Extensive other studies in our nation found it rare that the government ever tests for toxicities in any drinking water. We have chlorine, lye, to bring the pH up so that it won't rust the pipes. Do we care about whether we get lye poisoning or chlorine in us? No. The extremely powerful toxin destroys numerous neurons associated with brain and memory functions, causes ADD, ADHD, dyslexia, brain disorders in children, a combination of fluoride and aluminum. If it's only half as high, somebody said we'll cut it in half. If it's only half as high, it's still severe destruction of brain cells. Do you want that in your children? This aluminum, it causes brain inflammation and accelerates, and the aging process of our elderly are not able to tolerate this aluminum toxicity that's along with it. The worsens the effects of other toxins, such as pesticides. We have oil-based pesticides now that won't wash off the water since the 70s. That's causing cancerous growth with pesticides in those cancerous growths. What is the matter with us? Where is our head? Up our nose, buried in the sand? Yes.
3 minutes.
Okay, I just want to end with this. Find out the wonderful benefits of alkaline, antioxidant, and microclustered water. You'll never drink pop, energy drinks, or soft drinks again because they're all 2.5 acidic like battery acid. Here's a paper.
Okay,
Tommy Jack's place.
that concludes our agenda this evening. I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank you for the civility of our discussion this evening. Take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All those in favor of the motion to adjourn, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you again. Ladies and gentlemen, have a safe and pleasant evening with your family.
Sarah,
heading this year with how much capital we're spending and where we're spending it. It should help when we get to the CFP process.
A couple more comments that this is the first of 3. The next one to come online after this would be called, we are titling it Open Books. It's like, think of it as our checkbook. And then the last part to come online would be Open Payroll, so citizens can go on and find out who are the highest paid employees in the city, how much were they paid by category. We will list by name the top 10 wage earners in the city. Beyond that, they will be identified by position. One final comment, the Open Data Project here by Socratic is the same version that is being used by such small cities as Los Angeles and Boston or Seattle, as well as cities much smaller than us. So that's where part of the advantage of this system is Socratic is able to leverage a common tool to serve a wide variety of audiences, so we don't have to pay the full development costs. We think this is going to be very useful for folks to do public record searches of how much have you paid a company or how much did this project actually cost. So we're quite pleased with what's happened so far. The rollout has been going a little bit slower than what we planned because a couple of times we found when we looked at how we titled things in our financial records, they may not have made sense to be public because we use technical accounting terms that make sense to us, but if a public citizen looked at it, I have no clue what that means. So we've gone through and had to translate back and forth. So with that, we'd be glad to answer any questions that you may have. Again, like we said, we anticipate this should be able to go live for the public within the next couple of weeks, and then about a month after that for the open the expenditures portion, and about a month after that for the open payroll portion.
I just actually like to comment, this is a great idea, and I'm grateful that it is coming out. I know this will be the great thing for folks who are running for city council to really understand what the budget would be like. I often also wonder how many of our requests for information we will actually no longer have because now the data is online. So I'm hoping that this will help reduce that.
Well, I will reference one request that we had a few weeks ago was how much have we spent with Brook and Brook construction in 2005. We were able to have to produce that report, but if this system would have been online at that point, the requester could merely have gone to this under open expenditures, typed in Brook and Brook construction, and that
view here, but also on each of the individual budgets. So this one is showing the overview for 16. For 15, the map overview, there are quite a few more projects. For projects that share one location, you're only going to see, if you hover over it right now, you're only going to see at City Hall like one IT project, but there could be 10 or more. So just so that you know, it shows you locations, but it doesn't give you all the detail on the map that you might want to see. The capital budget for it's broken out by fund, it's broken out by service, which is basically fund, but you can also look at it by project description, which will give you all of the projects in a list so you can compare costs. One of the things that you'll have to notice is that the scaling changes based on the most expensive project. So the first page showed a project for 14 million, this one shows a project for 150 million. So be aware that the scaling is per page. But you can see that there are a number of projects that we're running and tracking and going to be capitalizing it eventually. But when you go into the individual projects, I'll go back to the fund. So if you wanted to see all of the projects for the capital improvement fund, which is a governmental fund, funded mostly through general fund, you would click on that particular line, and then you can see it's broken out between streets, parks, capital improvement, general projects, and homeland security, which are fire and police improvements. If you click on this, you can then go back down further into individual projects by description. And it will again give you a map of where the project is located, as well as a general description of what the project entails. It's pretty easy to navigate through and see. You can again download the information by table in the same way that Sherry showed. You can look at the information in a table. You can look in it over time. Eventually, you will get that so that you can see how much we spend in different funds year by year.
Utility fund budget. Again, if we switch over to 2015, then we can see some actuals with those budget amounts. Let's drill down into security of persons and property. Of course, that would be the police, fire, and a small part of community development falls into that category. Linda also mentioned that you can get this data if you want to look and see all the data that we have in our financial system down here in the lower right-hand corner. I won't do the download because it could take a while, but you can either view it all on your screen. If you would like to download it into Excel, you can do that as well. This is all the same data we see at our desks here, so the public really is going to be able to delve into what we see. There's also links if you have questions, there's a glossary of terms. Oh, so this is an actual glossary from our city budget document, so if some terms don't make sense, you can click there. And within this $113 million expenditure budget, we also break that down further into our capital budget, or our CFP. So of that $113 million, $11.9 million is actually dedicated to capital projects. And this is where Tess will go in and show you some examples of that.
The capital budget portion functions a bit differently than the other portions in that it doesn't do an actual. If you want the actual information, you have to go back up to the expenditure and the revenue portion and look in the CIP funds for the spending and the revenues. But if you go into the capital budget, there's also another thing that we're fixing in 2017, but at the end of every year, we end up with a bit of capital money that's not spent. And as you know, when we go through the process of rebudgeting, for example, the solid waste transfer station, we budgeted $12 million spending last year. We actually spent closer to 8 or 9 million. The remaining part will roll into next year's budget. So when you get into the capital budget, there is a selection where you can say all years. The all years will be overstated by the amount that we roll, because we don't go back and amend those to be equal to the actual amount spent for the year. We leave it at budgeted only. So the capital budget section is a little bit different in that it presents a map view. You can see where all of the projects are occurring throughout the city, not only in the over
Okay, we are running about a minute late, so we need to start immediately. This is a special meeting. Public is welcome to join with us this evening. I'm going to refer to our regular council meeting for a roll call. So I'll turn the time over in the presentation to Brian.
Mayor, members of council, tonight we are presenting to you the first of what will be a three-part series that the first part is kind of an open budget. It's all part of an open data system where we are opening and putting online what will be all of the city's financial records so that the public will be able to access those, find out how we budgeted, find out who we paid, find out how many times we paid somebody. They can pull up a list if they want to know how many times have we paid Brook and Brook Construction Company in 2015. They can run that search. Let me introduce tonight, I've got three folks here who are some of the best in this state. Linda Cariotti, who is the overall project manager. Linda's in the red top, and she is our senior systems specialist, and it's her job to bring this project online with the assistance of a number of other folks. Also with us is Sherry Wright, who you've seen before. Sherry's our budget officer, and Sherry will manage the budget component, of which this is a large part, and then Tess Atchison, who's our capital projects officer, and Tess will manage the capital projects. But let me start with Linda to do an overall introduction and then get us moving. Our goal is to get this done in maybe 15 minutes of time for a few questions afterwards.
Okay, I just want to start with that. Sherry's going to do a little demo here, and then Tessa's going to show you part of the product. But the main reason we went with this product, with Socrata, is they're integrated in with our financial system that we have. They're a company that specializes in data and transparency of data for governments, all from city governments to county governments, state governments. So this is a very scalable product for us. As we grow, this product can grow with us. We have it so that it's going to be fully automated, so the data will be updated on a regular schedule without any intervention from staff, which is a good thing for us in time saving. Also, it will allow all of the customers to go in and download any data that is in this system in an Excel format, or they can also view the data online. And with that, I'm just going to have Sherry and Tess do some demo for you.
Absolutely. So this is really exciting. This is still at the demo stage. We're not ready to roll this out to the public quite yet. Still working out the kinks and getting the updates automated. But for now, we're just going to show you what's coming down the pike, hopefully within the next couple weeks. This is open budget. And as you can see, this budget summary right here shows a revenue budget and an expenditure budget of $113 million. They're balanced. This is for 2016. Let's start with the revenues. You click on the revenues and all these fancy graphs will pop up. We're still looking at 2016. We're still looking at our citywide revenue budget of $113 million. Here's where you can go in and make some adjustments depending on what you're looking for. And for now, I'm going to switch this 2016 to 2015, and I think you'll understand why in a moment here. Now you can see these bar graphs not only show the light orange, which is the budget, they also have the dark red, which is the actuals for each of those categories. And for council, you should be familiar with these categories here down the left-hand side. Charges for goods and services, that typically is our utility revenues. Use of reserves, this is an account that we will show up for budget purposes, but we won't actually ever code any actual expenditures there or code any revenues there. It's only used to balance the revenues with the expenditures for budget purposes. And another revenue category of taxes, and you'll see if I click on taxes, I think that's one we're all fairly familiar with. Comes up with this whole list of the tax revenues that the city receives. And this column here that says amended, that's the most recent budget that has been adopted. And then the actual, of course, is the actual year-to-date revenue for those categories. You can also, instead of a table view, you can look at it snapshot. If that's easier on your eyes, you can look at it percentages versus dollar amounts. If we head back to the main open budget page, you can see on the left side there's that toolbar. And we can also scroll around in the the expenditure side. We can change the expenditures broken down by fund. If you're interested in how the general fund budget compares to the electric